Hello, everybody. This is a Thursday morning. Chattanooga, Tennessee. Football tonight. The NFL, Redskins, Giants. An excuse for me to lose my mind. This is AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio Clutch with Keon Rose. We've got so much to talk about today, but before we get into anything serious, we're going to have a game that we've been playing. We haven't named it yet. I think I'm going to name it Who You Got.
There you go. I like that name.
Yep. The Pick Show. That's fun for the boys and girls, featuring Mr. Judd of the Mr. Judd Show. And we're going to be picking all of the college games of the weekend, finally. Adjusting that camera there so you can see him. If you search Hot News Talk Radio on YouTube, see what Mr. Judd looks like.
That's correct. Man, that beautiful man. I must say myself. An attractive man.
There you go.
All right, let's get to our picks. I'm ready.
Let's get to the picks.
We're using odds this week, correct?
We're using odds this week because we were tied the last 2 weeks that we played. We did not play last week because you were out of town.
That's correct.
And I did not think to email you because negligence. That's really what it is.
That's fine. We all need to break it down.
Because I'm unprofessional. Okay. So our first game is Oklahoma State at Texas, and they are 3-point favorites.
Oklahoma State is, right?
Oklahoma State is over the Horns.
I'm going to take Oklahoma State. I'm going to take the points. I am going to take the points.
I'm going to take Texas minus the points. I do think that they're still a very good defensive team, despite the fact that California, put up 45 on them. And I do like this new guy at quarterback, Jared Hurd, that he's been playing a whole lot better than Swoops was, and I think that the offense actually looks like it's got some life in it.
I think that's important. They needed life in their offense.
So I'm going to go with the Horns. Also a little homerism.
There you go. I don't blame you. I'm going to do the same thing on the next game.
The next game, Texas A&M. The Aggies are ranked 14th in the nation, 7-point favorites over your Hogs of Arkansas.
That's correct. And that's at a neutral site. That's going to be at the Jerry Dome. So I'm going to take my Arkansas Razorbacks. I think this is the week they bounce back. Fingers crossed, toes crossed, all that good stuff.
I don't want to, but I will take the Razorbacks also.
Wow, you're going to lay the 7. I mean, you're going to go with the 7.
I'm going to go with the 7, and partially because I think that the Razorbacks are a good football team still. They haven't been playing like it, but I just don't see them losing. And coming off of that Texas Tech loss, I think they're going to be fired up and a little hungry for a win. And I don't think I completely believe in A&M yet.
I think you're right on A&M. I mean, they've played well. They had a great first game. But I'm like you. I'm not totally sold. I'm not totally sold that A&M is that good or Arkansas is that bad. I think this is a big matchup, and this is going to tell where both teams are, though.
I agree. And A&M likes that 2-quarterback system, that I think that they have 2 quarterbacks with different strengths and they cover up for each other. But I don't know how long you can consistently run out 2 quarterbacks.
You're right there.
I don't see it.
I agree with that. It's just, I think eventually it's going to play havoc with the continuity of the offense.
And we have another game.
Arkansas has no receivers. We got the big game here.
The big game, the one that
Chattanooga.
Everyone's talking about. Florida, 1.5-point favorite over Tennessee. And the Vols haven't beaten Florida
in 10 years.
In 10 years. It's been a decade.
It has.
Okay, I mean, they say it's a rivalry that's important to them, but it's been so lopsided.
Then that's not a rivalry.
No.
You need to win.
Occasionally. Occasionally. It's been 10 straight years of Florida over Tennessee. Is this finally the time that Tennessee breaks through over Florida?
I don't think so. I think Florida's at home, and I think that's the determining factor. It's a 1.5-point game. So I think that 1.5 points, I think it'd be an even game if it was a neutral site, and it would be a flip of the coin. But I just think Florida being at home, and their defense is pretty darn good. I know they've lost one of their cornerbacks, but still their defense is pretty darn good. I think the Tennessee offense, to me, is still struggling a little bit. So I think their defense beats the Tennessee offense.
I'm going to go Vols.
Oh, wow.
And I say this because I was reading the news this morning, and apparently they did lose their corner to suspension, but they're also losing the quarterback. Treon Harris has been suspended also. Wow. So neither of those guys are going to play, and I feel like this game could be close enough that would tip the balance.
It may do it, but I'm still going to stay with Florida.
Well, because you hate Tennessee, so there was never an option there for you.
Doesn't matter if Tennessee was favored by 14.
You weren't going to ever pick them.
Yes.
One of these days, I'm going to have Tennessee, and they're going to be playing some school that they're favored to beat by like 25, and I'm going to put them here so that you have to pick them.
Take them. I have to take them.
Yes,
I don't know about that.
I'm going to make you say the words. But the next school is Georgia Tech, and we don't hate Georgia Tech at all.
Yeah.
They're ranked 20th in the nation. They're playing Duke. They are at Duke. Yes, yep, it's at Duke, and they are 8-point favorites over the Blue Devils. And Blue Devils are a little bit surprising this season. They've looked better than they have in recent years, but Georgia Tech is really good, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
I agree. They are very good. And I think the way Tech plays offense, it's just hard to practice against. And I say that Notre Dame just absolutely took them to the woodshed last week. That game wasn't as close as the score, but I don't think Duke is Notre Dame. So I'm going to take Tech's, and I'll take the 8 points. You know, I'll give Duke their 8 points. I think Tech beats them pretty good.
I agree. The way that they play offense down there is so run heavy. I mean,
old school to say the least.
I know that when Calvin Johnson came out of Georgia Tech, like one of the surprising things that everyone noticed about him was like, we didn't know that he could do this because they never really threw the ball.
They didn't know he could catch. They just know he could block.
And he had a couple of amazing catches, but it was just the one or two times that he ever got the chance to.
You're right.
So I mean, the way Georgia Tech plays football, it's unconventional, and I agree with you. It is hard to practice for. I'm gonna pick Georgia Tech also.
Okay.
And we got a night game, some Pac-12 championship ramifications on the line.
I think so, and this one's an interesting game.
It is. The Utes of Utah visit Oregon. The Ducks are 12-point favorites.
They're only a 12-point favorite.
They're only a 12.
But I know their quarterback. Is he out? I know he hurt his finger, but is he out?
That I am not sure yet. I was looking it up. I couldn't find anywhere that said that he was out. So I'm going to operate under the assumption that he's in.
Right.
And Utah's started off 3-0. They've looked very impressive, especially defensively. Who you got?
I think I'm going to take Oregon at home. Seems like that line ought to be a little bigger, but I'm sure the guys in Vegas know a little more than me. But I still think Oregon can beat them by 14.
I want to be edgy and pick Utah, but I just can't do it.
If they were at Utah, I would be all over you.
Yeah, that would be something that you could trust just a little bit more, but it's hard to pick against Oregon in their house with the amount of points that they put up.
That's right.
And the Ducks have still shown that even though they haven't gotten the passing game going the way they'd like to, they can still run the ball whenever they want to, like whenever. So I choose the Ducks. I think they could probably beat them by 14.
I think so.
16 points even.
Easily.
So we're going to choose the Ducks here. We are more or less in agreement going down this list.
This one should be interesting, though.
But Michigan versus BYU.
That's at Michigan, I believe.
That is at Michigan, and Michigan is a 5-point favorite. BYU ranked 22nd in the nation. How long do they have that ranking?
I think it ends this week. I would take Michigan. They're at home. They are starting to play pretty good football. BYU is kind of living on that tightrope, and it could fall at any moment. And I think this is a game that BYU loses. And I think it may be about much more than 5.
I think so as well, but maybe I don't think it'll be much more than 5. I think it would probably be a touchdown. I think they'll lose by about 7. Mm-hmm. But with BYU, I don't trust.
I'm with you.
Their offense. I just don't trust it.
It looks good, and it looks so bad, and you don't know. And I'm talking about each play.
Yeah.
It's not series or not games, but it's almost they look great on one play, and the next play they look like they've never played before.
Exactly. And I like their running back a lot. That guy's a monster. But their quarterback, I mean, that guy's throwing interceptions, that head scratching stuff.
You're right.
head scratching. I could not understand what this guy is thinking.
Who is he throwing to? He must not know that. He must be colorblind on the jerseys.
It must be.
Yeah.
He only sees in black and white.
Yeah.
We're jumping back to the Pac-12 now. UCLA, Arizona. UCLA is ranked 9th. Arizona is ranked 16th. And
that's at Arizona?
That is at Arizona, I believe. Who you got?
I'm going to take Arizona. I'm going to take the 3 points, and I'm going to take Arizona. I think it's going to be a close game. I think either team could win, but I'm going to give the home factor to Arizona. And I think UCLA is a good team. I think they're a real good team, but I just think they stumble here at Arizona.
I am going to take UCLA.
Oh, here we go.
There we go. Splitting hairs a little bit. I know that they lost their corner this week, and they've had a few injuries stack up on them so far, but I still think they look pretty solid on offense and defensively. They can get after you. So I'm going to go UCLA on that one.
Okay, there's a little split there. Now the next one is interesting. I think the line on the next game is the most interesting part.
It's probably the most interesting line of any of the games that we were looking at earlier because of who is involved, and that is TCU and Texas Tech. TCU only a 7-point favorite.
I know, and I know it's at Texas Tech, but still TCU number 3 in the country. Some places have them number 4. It all depends.
National title contender.
Yes, and we're supposed to walk away with all these games. Only a 7-point favorite. Now, for me, if Texas Tech won, that would even help Arkansas, in my opinion, since, but if TCU beats them by 42, that wouldn't help. It's right at Texas Tech. I like the Texas Tech quarterback, but I'm going to have to go with TCU. I think they're waiting to have that big game where they throw up 64 points and the other guys looking around going, what happened to me?
Right. And I think Trevon Boykin is too good at quarterback. He throws really well on the run. And unless he's sick and somehow Vegas knows, and I don't know, I just don't see that being as close as the line says it is. And I understand that Texas Tech, that's a difficult place to play, but you have a first-year head coach.
Right.
I don't see it. I don't see it. I'm taking the Horned Frogs all the way.
7 is not.
I think 7 times maybe 3.
Yeah, I was going to say 21 or something maybe, but all right. And then we've got I think this is another defining game in the SEC: Auburn and Mississippi State.
It is, and I think that this is a game because you look at what you're trying to be in contention the whole way through, and especially in the SEC. And you have 2 teams here that are looking like you're trying to avoid the bottom right now. You're actively trying to avoid the bottom.
A mess. I don't know what's happened to them. I think they're a mess.
Everyone thought Auburn had a chance to win it all, the entire SEC, and
everything.
I saw when they played Jacksonville State, I hopped off of that bandwagon so fast.
And then LSU still beating them, I think.
Yeah,
but it's at Auburn, and Auburn is only favored by 2, so that's interesting. People aren't putting a lot of faith in Mississippi State, but I think I'm going to take Mississippi State in this one.
I will too.
Oh, wow. Here we go.
Because I don't. Yeah. You're starting a freshman now, quarterback for Auburn, because you don't trust your quarterback, and
you got a defense that's just not playing well at all.
No, especially on run defense, which Mississippi State.
Prescott, you don't want it.
That's what they do.
Yep.
And I don't trust Auburn, not for 1 second. And so I have to choose Mississippi State. I just feel like in my gut, that's where I ought to go. And our last game, our last pick here, Missouri and Kentucky. Missouri's ranked 25th, and they're a 3-point favorite.
I'm going to stick my neck out on the limb, and I think Kentucky beats Missouri this week. I think Kentucky is primed for a win, and this would be a big win in that program. Missouri just has not looked good at all. But that's the way Missouri plays. So, but I think Kentucky at home, they win. So I'm going to take Kentucky, and I'll take some points.
Okay. I'm going to stick with Missouri.
Okay.
I like Kentucky a lot. I really like their quarterback. He's solid.
He is.
And he's solid. He surprised a lot of people in the second half of last season, and he's still playing well, and they still look like a very good football team. So I'm not picking against Kentucky because of their past, which has not been a good football past. But I'm going to go with the favorite. I think Missouri, I don't believe they'll turn it around or anything, but I don't think that they're as bad as they have looked recently.
Right.
And so I think Missouri is going to come out on top there. So we have two differences.
There you go.
Huge differences
That's
here.
Big.
And we haven't had a whole lot of that early on. But
we've had 2 or 3 differences. So I think this is going to be a good week.
This is. I'm really looking forward to it. That is it for this edition of Who You Got here on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with Mr. Judd of the Mr. Judd Show from 11 to noon.
And always, thank you so much, Keon. It's a pleasure to be on the Clutch.
Thanks for joining me. We'll be back. We'll talk a lot more about QB decisions, Redskins, Giants tonight, and statistics. That's been the theme of the week here on Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Compass Media Network's coverage of the NFL. Hi, this is Jerry Recco. Join Kevin Ray, Danny White, and myself for all the action.
Hot News Talk 1240.
If it's the NFL, it's right here.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
That smells so good. It smells like a big Italian dinner. But you're going to walk out with 2. Buy 1 hot pizza, get a 1 for free. 2 pizzas. You got the 2 for the price of 1 at Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria. My favorite Italian restaurant of all the time. Now, I'm living in Hickson. I go to Raphael's right down the street in Hickson Pike, right near Highland Plaza. You're in Saudi Daisy? Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria in Saudi Daisy. Just next to Saudi Daisy Church of God. Hey, you're on Signal Mountain. There's a Raphael's Italian Restaurant and a Pizzeria. It's right on the main drag. You're going to love the pasta, the pizza. Buy 1 hot pizza, get a 1 for free. 2 pizzas. You got the 2 for the price of 1 at Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria. Tastes so good. Bring the whole family. Come on, Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria. Mangia. Salute.
Tired of insurance companies? Tired of doctors that won't spend time with you? Do something different. Leave the sick care model of medicine and come to Dr. Danielle Mitchell, the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health, where we're interested in long-term health solutions, not the quick fixes. Come see me, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, at the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health. I'm all about the long-term healthcare solutions and doing what's best. On the web, you can find me at ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. That's ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Or call us at 875-1005, 875-1005, or find us on social media, Facebook, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, or the ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Let's go, ya!
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report, every Sunday at 9 a.m. My guest this week is former Congresswoman and candidate for the presidency, Miss Michelle Bachmann, who'll be here to talk about just how big a role beliefs play in forging public policy. Don't miss the always controversial Michelle Bachmann this Sunday at 9 a.m. on the Costa Report on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
So we have some more leadership talk here because a few teams have some tough decisions to make at the quarterback position, and some teams have already made tough decisions, and the fallout from that is what is hugely important to see here. When it comes to choosing a quarterback, and it's more difficult than choosing any other position in sports. It's more difficult than choosing your pitcher, even though your pitcher is highly important in baseball. Your pitcher pitches once every few days so that he doesn't destroy his arm. So if you have a pitcher that's good and you have another pitcher that's good, they'll all play, as opposed to quarterback where you pick one guy, that's your guy. You ride or die with this guy. And I don't know if there's anything else in sports that's quite like that. And I feel like these conundrums that you often find yourself in football, if that's not the reason why football isn't the most popular sport in this country, if make or break decisions like those that you often find yourself in football that you do not find yourself in with other positions. Like in basketball, the positions are very fluid. And by that, I mean the difference between your point guard and your shooting guard is not that big of a difference. The point guard mostly handles the ball, but it depends. There are teams in which the shooting guard handles the ball a lot. There are teams in which the point guard, whose main job typically is to distribute the ball, plays like a shooting guard. You see Russell Westbrook in Oklahoma City, he gets a lot of criticism for that mentality that he has. But that's because basketball positions are fluid. It doesn't make any sense to say that Russell Westbrook isn't a good point guard because he plays more like a shooting guard. He's just a good player. The fluidity of those positions, that LeBron James could actually play all 5 positions on the floor. He's big enough, he's strong enough, he's fast enough, he handles the ball well enough, he's got great enough vision. The talent is there for him to actually play all of those positions. That's how fluid it is. If you play quarterback in the NFL, it's very unlikely that you will also be able to play lineman, also be able to be receiver, also be able to, and you definitely couldn't do it all in one season because of the weight fluctuations that would require. So because of the specialization of the sport, I think you end up with these conundrums more so than in any other sport. There's no fluidity. You either play your position or you don't. If you play corner, you could be converted to safety. That's the only position that's kind of like yours, but there's no way you'd play linebacker. Very rarely. You got a guy like Cam Chancellor. He plays safety, but he's huge. He could probably play linebacker, but he couldn't be a lineman. He's not big enough. The specialization makes for these scenarios that are very cut and dry. And because the situations are cut and dry, the decisions that you have to make and you are forced to make are also very cut and dry. And it's unfortunate because people lose their jobs over these decisions. They don't have any recourse. They don't have any way to back out of a decision that is bad. In football, if you make the wrong decision too many times, you are done. It's game over for you. If you're a coach and you've got 2 guys in a quarterback battle, that's the reason why we have all of these conversations and why we always talk about quarterback in the NFL, because that's the position that has the ball the most. He's got the control of the entire offense. And because of that, you've got to pick the right guy in that position. And so many things are able to go wrong there. So many things can go wrong in a position like that. You can pick a guy that's smart. He's got a strong arm. He's pretty athletic, not mature enough. Well, then you're done. You can have a guy that's got a strong arm. He's pretty mature. He's athletic. Just doesn't understand the offense. Well, then you're done. And to that point, the lack of longevity hurts you. The lack of knowing who your quarterback is going to be hurts you. The Redskins have had a number of coaches go in and out of that team. We're on Jay Gruden now, but before Gruden, it was Shanahan, and before Shanahan, there was North Turner, there was Steve Spurrier. There was a line of coaches going through Washington. And why is that the case? Because they couldn't figure out what to do with the quarterback position. They would always pick the wrong quarterback or simply not have the right ones on the roster. That's also a problem, because that's up to you to draft and go through free agency and find those guys. Let's put it this way. The New York Giants have won 2 championships with Eli Manning as their quarterback. Is Eli Manning the greatest quarterback ever? No. But he is able to get the job done with the team that he's on. They've got a good defense, and Eli Manning is able to be clutch at key points in the game that give the Giants victories, and he understands the offense, and he doesn't make incredibly boneheaded decisions when the game is on the line. He just doesn't. They have 2 Super Bowls with him, and they drafted him in 2004. And he's been the only quarterback that they've had since 2004 because Eli Manning has the current streak for the longest amount of games played without missing a start. Eli Manning doesn't get injured, which longevity, availability is an ability. Not just in football, but just generally in life. The person who is available, that's an ability too. But since 2004, and I read this on CBS.com this morning, since 2004, when the New York Giants drafted Eli Manning, the Washington Redskins have had 10 different people start at quarterback. 10. You can't build any kind of structure around that. You can't make anything last with a revolving door like that. You need to pick a person and stick with them. But you can't stick with some of the guys that have started at quarterback for the Redskins because they're terrible. The 10 quarterbacks that have started since the Giants had Eli Manning in 2004, since they drafted him, are going backwards. Kirk Cousins now, and before him, Colt McCoy, and before him, RG3, and before him, John Beck, and before him, Rex Grossman, and before him, Donovan McNabb, and before him, Todd Collins, and before him, Jason Campbell, and before him, Patrick Ramsey. There's no stability there. There's nothing stable about that situation at all. And that's the reason why Dan Snyder is widely believed to be a terrible owner, even though he brings the Redskins a lot of money, and the Redskins are one of the most valuable teams despite their losing ways. He is still widely believed to be a bad owner because of the lack of structure and because of the lack of stability that seems to always revolve around this team and seems to hang around this team. And it's easy to pick on the Redskins. The Raiders have a similar situation where they just can't seem to find the guy at the quarterback position. And it makes you think long and hard what you do with those positions. And so a few teams that have some quarterback positions to make, and you're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio Clutch with Keon Rose, is this. When you have to make a quarterback decision, do you go with the popular decision or do you go with what you feel is the correct decision? Or do you go with the trendy decision, the decision that seems to be following the trends, or do you go with the decision in your gut? And it's tough because you could lose your job over it. You could affect the stability of the locker room over it. The Cleveland Browns, after Josh McCown has been cleared from his concussion test, he got a concussion in week 1. Johnny Manziel takes over in week 2, doesn't play very well. The Browns lose, but he bounces back in week 3, delivers a fantastic performance, using that escapability that we saw in college, throwing 3 touchdown passes to Travis Benjamin. He looked good. He looked really good. But the Browns opt to go back to Josh McCown. Up in New York with the Jets, Ryan Fitzpatrick is the quarterback of the Jets, and the Jets have started off 3-0. They've won 3 games. And what's interesting with them is that Geno Smith was supposed to be their starter. That's who head coach Todd Bowles said was the starter. And then, since they've been winning with Ryan Fitzpatrick, not necessarily doing anything because the defense is doing all the heavy lifting for that team, he went out of his way this past week to say that Ryan Fitzpatrick was going to be the starter from here on out. Even though Geno's not even close to coming back, Todd Bowles felt that he needed to make that decision right away. I'm not sure why, because at one point he did choose Geno Smith to be the starter. For whatever his reasons were, he chose Geno to be the starter. So at one point he was convinced that Geno was the starter, and now because the Jets are winning and not at all in favor, not at all because of Fitzpatrick, who has been a bad quarterback throughout his career, a journeyman quarterback, because he's not good, but he's always found himself in these positions where he gets an opportunity to start. He's the guy that seems to always bounce around from company to company, and you're like, how's this guy still finding a job? He's not good at it. I guess he's persistent. I guess he's a nice guy, a little lucky, just finding himself in these positions. So he's holding on to the starting job, and both teams did what they wanted to do with regards to appeasing fan bases, but it's one team that went with the unpopular decision and one team that went with the popular decision. And I'm not saying that proves whether or not Todd Bowles and Mike Pettin, if they're better coaches, if Pettin is a better leader than Bowles is, but I will say this: Pettin, between the two guys, made the better leadership decision. If before the season Mike Pettin actually believed that Josh McCown was a better quarterback than Johnny Manziel, then he has to go with Josh McCown, regardless of how Johnny Manziel looked. He's still the backup. If Todd Bowles really believed that Geno Smith was better than Ryan Fitzpatrick, then this is a decision made purely on covering your own butt. This is a decision made on not swaying. This is a decision made on swaying with what the people want. That you want this. You think that this is what the people want, so you're doing it. You think that this is the right way to go because look, we're winning. It's a superstitious way of making a decision. That's like not changing your socks after closing a sale. These are the socks in which I do sales. I can't wear anything that's not these. It's a superstitious way of making a decision. We haven't lost yet with Ryan Fitzpatrick, so we're going to continue to play Ryan Fitzpatrick, even though Ryan Fitzpatrick is not even the reason that we're winning. Leadership calls you to make difficult decisions. And yes, when you have those difficult decisions, sometimes you will be wrong. But if you thought that Geno Smith was your guy, then when he is healthy enough to play, he should still be your guy. And at the very least, you could wait until he's uninjured before you make this decision. Like, you didn't even have any pressure on you to make this decision. You just came out and said it because you felt the pressure. You felt pressure that did not exist. You felt non-existent pressure from your fan base, from your bosses. You wanted to prove that look, we're winning, and it's because of decisions that I'm making. And then, ironically, you did so by making a non-decision. You didn't choose the guy that you thought was the best guy. And the same thing with Josh McCown and Johnny Manziel. It would have been easy for Mike Pettin to choose Johnny Manziel, if only in part because, at least unlike Ryan Fitzpatrick in New York, Johnny Manziel did have something to do with their victory. Johnny Manziel was actually a reason that they won last week. It was easy to look at Johnny Manziel and say he looked really good. He got the offense moving. He brought life to the team. He brought him a little bit of life, and Manziel is obviously disappointed. And I think that it's the right decision to start McCown over Manziel. It's actually the correct decision, because if you believed Josh McCown was your guy, then you've got to stick with him. Meanwhile, Johnny Manziel is young. He's still going to have to learn. He's still going to have to grow up. He's still going to have to mature as he learns this offense a little bit better. And you're giving him the opportunity to do so. This is Clutch with Keon Rose. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Expect partly cloudy, warm and dry weather out there through the afternoon. Highs into the lower 80s. Tonight, more clouds. Could see a late shower or two, lows lower 60s. For Friday, lots of clouds with showers moving in from the east. Highs only near 72 with some lingering clouds and showers for Saturday as well. Check out Glass Farm Nursery now with a new shipment of pansies and violas with 48 different colors, only $12.99 a flat, as well as large mums only $17.99 at Glass Farm, Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm Sourcine 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
Are you tired of feeling like just another account number to your financial advisor? Try something refreshingly different. Call Edward Jones Financial Advisor Patrick Neal in Hickson at 870-7894. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection, loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Here you are, working to keep your customers happy and to manage your cash flow. IRS problems are the last thing you need, but here they are, flapping about you like vultures. Get help from Eric Pelton and his team of accountants at E.J. Pelton Company. Audits, letters, proposed return changes, 1099s, penalty threats. Pelton Tax Resolution Services brings peace of mind and helps you keep more of what you've earned. EJPelton.com. Offices on Brainerd Road and in Saudi Daisy, just north of the Bilo. That's EJ Pelton. Call 622-3156. Think ahead, 622-3156. An alternative to insurance for people of Christian interest is Samaritan Ministries, a cost-sharing group whose fellow members contribute to your medical expenses. Hi, David Tulis here, member of Samaritan Ministries. I have no deductibles, no silly in-network rules. I choose my own doctors. I'm a cash payer and get the cash discount with med providers. I'm 100% compensated by Christian families around the nation who send their checks directly with a personal note and pray for me in my medical distress. I have a family membership. I write a $405 check every month to a person in need. Just love it. Learn more about Samaritan Ministries Tuesday, September 29 at 7 p.m. at Brainerd Hills Presbyterian Church on East Brainerd Road. It's a mini conference on the Christian alternative to medical insurance.
You know what? I always made fun of people who thought clowns were creepy. And driving around town, they've got the McDonald's has got the giant inflatable Ronald McDonald blow-up balloon things. Just sitting, like there's one by the Riverwalk Park. It's just he's just chilling out there. Clowns are creepy. That's not my particular phobia, but I get it now. I get it. I really get it. Oh my goodness. That is one of the creepiest things that will happen to you in life. Don't drive on Amnicola Highway at night. That's all I'm saying. It's creepy. It's creepy. I think that they should use a different mascot out there. Somebody that looks more harmless and less terrifying than the homicidal looking Ronald McDonald. Run out Grimace or something. I don't know. Clowns, man. But anyway, we're talking about decision making, and when you make quarterback decisions, a lot of times you have to go with the stats. You've got to go with the numbers. Sometimes you've got to go with what your gut's telling you. But whatever decision you make, if that's the one that you believe, you ought to stand by it. You ought to stand by it. But again, making decisions for the masses, making decisions for the fan base, that's not what they pay you to do. It's not at all what they pay you to do. So you ought to make the decisions. If Josh McCown is your guy, Doesn't matter what Johnny Manziel does. You thought Josh McCown would be able to play better, and you haven't even seen McCown really play. And you need Johnny to develop. It's a good decision by Mike Pettin. Good for the Cleveland Browns. And you make these judgments based on data. And, you know, I was watching the political campaigns, and I just watch it sometimes, and I go, do we do anything scientific anymore? Do we do anything scientifically? It's very, very disappointing to see it. A lot of times we have these polls. These polls aren't scientific at all. If you look at the polls on Fox News, you know, Hillary's in trouble. She's burning in flames. She's not going to make it. You look at the polls on Fox News, and I don't even know what it is that we're talking about when it comes to the Republican Party. You look at the polls on CNN, and it's all pro Hillary. Look at Hillary this, Hillary that. Hillary's getting the young vote because Lena Dunham from the show Girls on HBO is a fan of hers now. So this is so unscientific. I think our founding fathers would be incredibly disappointed with what we call politics today. I really do. Incredibly unscientific. The numbers, how we generate them and where they're coming from, especially as reported by the media, incredibly unscientific. Like it couldn't be more unscientific. And then I look at sports fans and I look at how we talk to each other, and I go, well, no wonder. That's just our society. This is how we talk. This is how we argue. When we talk about pitchers and we look at the best pitchers in the games, we look at wins. Like, what's that? Wins are a team stat. A pitcher can't have 12 wins. Is he playing every other position on the field and hitting every time? No, he's not. Gosh, especially in the American League. In the American League, pitchers don't even hit. What is a win stat for that? But we do that to pitchers. We do it to quarterbacks. We talk about quarterbacks. This is your record as a starter. Well, yeah, but did he play on a crappy team? Did he play on a bad team? Then yeah, that affects his wins. He's not playing defense also. Or the unscientific. We've got a game tonight. Giants, Redskins. It's not Kirk Cousins, the quarterback, versus Eli Manning, the quarterback. We do this every time. Every time the Broncos play the Patriots, it's Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady. No, it's not. It's Peyton Manning versus the Patriots defense, and it's Tom Brady versus the Broncos defense. They don't play each other. They never set foot on the field at the same time, but we like to do that because it's easy to do. It's an easy comparison. It's an easy comparison to make. It's easy to take a look at Andrew Luck and go, look how often he turns over the ball. He generates a lot of turnovers. Look what Andrew Luck is doing as opposed to what Russell Wilson is doing. Or as opposed to what Andy Dalton is doing. Andrew Luck is throwing the ball almost 50 times a game. He's going to have more turnovers. He just simply has more opportunities to have more turnovers. It's like being on the air. It's like being on the radio. The reason why you're able to go and mock, and it happens in broadcasting a lot, that when a guy messes up on the air, that you can go, why did he say that? Why is he saying this bad thing that he said? And you know why he's saying it? You say a lot of things on the air. The more you talk, the more opportunities you have to mess up. So you'll mispronounce words. You'll swap words around. It'll happen to you. It'll happen to all of us. It has happened to the greats, to the best people who have ever been on air. It's happened. I'm not any exemption. When I stumble and mumble and go, that'll happen sometimes because I'm saying a lot of words that I have to fill the silence for an hour with hopefully something that is thoughtful and helpful and useful. Andrew Luck is having to fill an offense for an entire football game. You hope with touchdowns, but honestly, when you throw the ball nearly 50 times a game, that's a lot of turnovers. It'll happen. And I think a lot of times too, even when we use good statistics beyond just winning, okay, counting stats, because every time that you have the LeBron, Michael Jordan conversation, that discussion, that gets out of hand very quickly. If you want to say Michael Jordan is greater than LeBron, I have no problem with you saying that. For my money, it's LeBron James, because he combined the greatest parts of Michael and Magic and put them together in one guy. That's insane. That is insane. If you put LeBron James on any of those Bulls teams, I think they still have 6 championships. I think they still have 6. And I think it's difficult to sit here and go, yeah, but Michael has 6 and LeBron's got 2, so Michael's better. It's when you run that argument out there that I've got a problem with you. I've got a huge problem with you, because you've not looked at any numbers. You haven't even just compared the game tape. You haven't even compared playing styles. It's about the most unscientific way that you could come to that conclusion, by using the most incomplete of statistics. Wins are a team stat. Championships are a team stat. If you want to say that the Boston Celtics are greater than the Los Angeles Lakers as franchises of all time because the Celtics have more championships than the Lakers do, that is perfectly fine. That is a context in which saying one organization has more championships than another over a span of time, that makes sense in the context of that statistic. You're comparing teams, so you would obviously use a team statistic. Where I get infuriated and where I get mad is where we start to compare championships and we start to compare wins, and we even compare people's touchdowns to one another, touchdowns, shooting percentage, as though they all play in the same system, in the same way. This is the reason why people will play for the San Antonio Spurs, go to another team, and you can't find them. It's like they fell off a cliff. It's because they were in a system that worked for them, and then suddenly they're not, and they've disappeared. And you see it happen all the time. You see it happen. You saw it happen with the Houston Rockets. They had Chandler Parsons, and Chandler Parsons was extremely successful in their system. And Chandler Parsons wanted to be paid like a guy who was extremely successful in that system. And then they didn't pay him. They were like, look, you don't have the leverage to negotiate this, really. We can continue to win without you. We do not need you. We just want you. You are a good player. You're not a great player. Reasonable. Fair. Chandler Parsons walked away, went to the Dallas Mavericks. Also reasonable. The Mavericks did pay him the money that he wanted. And we can't find Chandler Parsons. We don't know where he is. We have no clue where he is. And that's simply because he's in a system that's not the best fit for him. They might have thought it was a great fit, but it's not. You look at Jimmy Graham, the tight end for the Seattle Seahawks. He was with the Saints, and the Saints traded him. And Jimmy Graham is unhappy with his role in Seattle's offense. But that makes sense. Like, I can't believe anybody was shocked about that going in. The Saints throw the ball a lot. And Jimmy Graham is a giant that used to play basketball and jumps like a man who used to play basketball. And so he was extremely successful. There was nobody that could really guard him. He's already huge and tall. And when you throw the ball to him, he jumps 1,000,000 feet in the air. You can't guard him. But the Seahawks don't throw the ball. They're a running team. That's their style. That's their system. They've already built around it. They built that way before they got Jimmy Graham. They ought not to change simply because they have Jimmy Graham. But Jimmy Graham has not been as productive as he had been previously in his career because he's not playing in a system that is geared to his strengths. He's not playing in a system that's geared toward him nearly as much. And not only that, but now the team is losing, and so the unhappiness factor multiplies. And you can't compare Jimmy Graham now to Jimmy Graham a season ago to say what happened to Jimmy Graham. There are statistical factors that have come into play, like the quarterback throws the ball a lot less, like the team likes to run the ball a lot more. And the quarterback throws to the sideline. The quarterback is a short quarterback, though Drew Brees is also short. So there you go. But Seattle's offensive line doesn't work the same way that New Orleans' offensive line works. The Saints' offensive line works to open up a pathway for Drew to see downfield. The Seahawks are all about pushing up the middle. So Russell works best when he runs to the outside and makes plays with his feet. Still not necessarily conducive to a tight end that wants to receive a lot of passes. When you change, people playing in different systems will generate different numbers. It doesn't make any sense to compare the two straight up. You need some kind of context, and we do this unscientific thing, this Cro-Magnon way of using numbers, where we will use numbers outside of the context for which they were intended. If one team has more wins than another team, then that team, if a lot of the conditions are the same, they've played the same amount of games, that team can be said to be better than another team. If one player has more wins than another player, then you have to factor in the team and say they don't play the same, or they have less pieces. But we don't ever do it. It's so frustrating. There's nothing as frustrating on earth as that we have all of these numbers in order to interpret the thing that we are consuming, that we're watching football, basketball, baseball, and we enjoy it. And yet, for whatever reason, we do not like to take the extra time to look at more numbers to interpret what it is that we're doing, what it is that we're enjoying. What, do we not like it? That we just don't want to reduce things to numbers, and we are so afraid of it. It's like walking on pins and needles with that. That somehow using the numbers to interpret what a guy has done, interpret what a player has done, somehow means that player is only as good as their numbers. That we don't like to hear that the concept of a player getting hot in a game is really just the law of averages, that they're going to get cold later because if they shoot 50%, if they made a bunch now, they're going to miss a bunch later. That's just statistics. We somehow take that to mean that that's a guy being a slave to the numbers. And that's not the case at all. In fact, it couldn't be more different. The numbers simply interpret what it is that we are seeing. And what's wrong with that? This is Clutch with Keon Rose here on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. I'll see you in 23 hours.
Expect partly cloudy, warm and dry weather out there through the afternoon. Highs into the lower 80s. Tonight, more clouds. Could see a late shower or two, lows lower 60s. For Friday, lots of clouds with showers moving in from the east. Highs only near 72 with some lingering clouds and showers for Saturday as well. Check out Glass Farm Nursery now with a new shipment of pansies and violas with 48 different colors.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Sunny Daisy, Chattanooga. CBS News. I'm Harley Carnes of Pope and Circumstance.
Mr. Speaker, the Pope of the Holy See.
I'm Dan Raviv in Washington. The Pope did not use the word abortion when addressing Congress, but he said the golden rule, which starts do unto others, means if we want life, give life.
The golden rule also reminds us of our responsibility to protect and defend human life at every stage of its development.
Francis said it also means the death penalty should be abolished.
After speaking to Congress today, Francis visited St. Patrick's Church in Washington, which offers services to the poor and the homeless, some of whom he blessed.
Why do these, our brothers and sisters, have no place to live? Why are these